If I was the CEO of a bank and I was looking at my strategy for the future, tell me how Cal can help me bring that about.
I think the starting point is to say that we make a huge difference to the total cost of running a bank's ATM network. So cost reduction is critically important. The second point is that we are able to deliver innovation in the ATM channel. New transactions, things like check deposits, cash deposits, the ability to capture together all of those transactions that today are executed at the branch, but actually to do it at the ATM. And is it better to do it at the ATM? Absolutely, because it is much more consistent, much more reliable in multiple languages. The ATM is able to execute those transactions, generally speaking, better than at the branch teller. But more importantly, it allows the CEO of the bank to move cost from the high-cost branch channel to the low-cost and much more efficient ATM channel.
Cal software appears to give Cal customers control. Tell me a little bit about the control of the ATM network that Cal provides.
We think that our software gives back control to the banks in a way that banks have not been able to for the last 20, 30 years. The reason for that was when the ATMs were siloed, each of the ATMs was looked after by the manufacturer, and to a very great extent, the bank had very little control over what ran inside the ATM, at what frequency the software changed, because it had basically been outsourced, if you like, to each of the ATM vendors, but on a siloed basis. Because if the bank had an ATM from manufacturer 1 and another ATM from manufacturer 2, those manufacturers tended to do the software changes really at their own pace rather than what the bank wanted. Cal ATM software gives back control to the bank, allows the bank to pick the best of breed technology, and that's not just from the hardware perspective, but also from the software perspective. And when I say from the software perspective, very often when we go into a bank scenario, what we find is that the bank has other kinds of software solutions, things like CRM providers, database providers, that they want integrated into their ATM solution. So Cal software is about best of breed of hardware, best of breed of software technologies, and being able to put all of that into a world-class solution.
In terms of fulfilling a future vision, there are obviously lots of banks out there, but they all think in different ways. What type of bank is attracted to the Cal proposition?
I think that's interesting that you say that, because when you look at ATMs around the world, different ATMs have different functionality, and that's very interesting. I think the easiest first starting point is for banks to look at what happens in other banks successfully around the world and say, well, there are clearly things, clearly transactions, clearly functionalities and features that people like in other countries. Does that apply here? Bring those in, because that's not a high risk thing to do, to take something that is very successful somewhere else and bring it to the bank over here. The other thing that we are finding is that some banks have decided that the ATM channel is not just a cost point. It's not just something like the central heating system that you might have in your bank. It is a critical channel with which you touch your customers. And that means that they need to be innovative. They need to try new ideas. They need to differentiate themselves from other banks through that channel. So some banks see the ATM channel now as a strategic channel, as a strategic route to market, as strategically important in terms of the relationship with their customers. And we think more and more banks are moving to think of that ATM channel in that way. And one of the reasons for that is that there is technology today that makes it possible for the bank to be innovative in the ATM channel.